2020 has been a tough year for many, filled with lots and lots of challenges, but also opportunities. And today we're going to be talking to Anita Myers. She's the author of a brand new book called Hearts Do Matter. We're going to share some ways in which you can learn how to cope better when you've experienced the loss of a loved one or any kind of loss, or just simply feeling sad for that matter. Anita is an emotional intelligence strategist. And here on the Writers' Corner live show, we bring you the backstories of the stories written by storytellers from around the globe like Anita and offer you, the audience, the unique opportunity to interact with them live on the show. So do join us in the chat. Tell us where you're joining from. Don't go away. We will be right back with more on the Writers' Corner live show. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Writers' Corner live show. I'm your host, Bridgetti Limbanda from Cape Town in South Africa. And today's stream is made possible by StreamYard, Creative Edge, and BeLive Media, helping you spotlight the amazing humans behind your brand. If you want to know when we go live, please go ahead and like our Facebook page, and over on YouTube, click the notification and the subscribe button. And in today's show, we're going to be talking to Anita Myers, an emotional intelligence strategist and the author of the book Hearts Do Matter. But first, let me say hello to my amazing co-host and friend, Mary Elizabeth Jackson, who's a special needs and disabilities advocate and also the award-winning author of the Poolicious children's book series. Mary, how are you, my friend?
I am awesome. And yes, those books will be soon available again. I'm so excited. I just kind of found out recently they're coming back online. I'm so excited about that. But I'm doing well. We have a gorgeous day here. So we'll be getting outside with the kiddos, and I'm in the US, so we are getting ready for Thanksgiving on Thursday, which is definitely going to be a little different than normal Thanksgivings because traveling is not as easy, and we're being warned, of course, which you can relate to with the pandemic, to not gather into groups more than 8 or 11, that kind of thing, or cancel your plans altogether. But everybody needs. We need Thanksgiving. We need, even if it's a virtual Thanksgiving, don't we? And what I've noticed, I don't know if it's happening in your country, but people have already started putting their Christmas decorations out earlier than normal. Christmas music's already on the radio. That festive, people, we're starting to see Christmas movies already, because they don't always come out until after Thanksgiving or right closer to it, but it's been in this whole past week. So I think people are craving that, something happy, something joyful, something that makes them forget about the mess we're in,
Yeah, it's been kind of an interesting time. Shall we call it that?
Yeah.
So our author for today, Anita Myers, is an emotional intelligence strategist and the founder of Innerscope 365. Her work she dedicates to redefining wellness through the engagement of emotional intelligence. And her books include Hearts Do Matter, which is the one we're going to be talking about today. Also Grateful Celebrations. And we had her on the show before. So It's wonderful to have her back again, because last time we spoke about the undercover superhero. And as I said, today we're going to be focusing on Hearts Do Matter. So let's not waste any more time. And shall we invite Anita to the show, shall we?
Absolutely.
Anita, hearty welcome. So great to have you back on the Writers Corner live show.
Thank you so much for having me. I just got, again, the last time that I was on your show, your introduction is just so compelling. And this one, I just kind of I love what you just did. Just that little welcome live was so beautiful. It just emotionally impacted me. So I enjoyed that.
Well, you are an emotional intelligence, so we like to help you out with that, right?
You really did. You did a great job. It's wonderful.
Brigetti is just amazing. Oh my gosh, she just always amazes me. I'm so honored to be, to do this show with her, and we're friends, and I just love everything she does. She's like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? I'm like, this is awesome. Are you going to sleep now?
I know. You know what's funny is that if you're given a 9-to-5 job, and all of us have been there in our lives, you just go and you do those things. That energy is different. But when you go and you are doing something that you have a passion and purpose for, you just your energy is different. You'll stay awake. You will stay up as long as you need to, because it brings you joy to put it together. And I find myself telling myself I should get myself to bed. I know these things. It's the right thing to do. And I still, stay up as late as I do with projects and thoughts and new ideas. So
we never get off the clock. Creativity never clocks out.
No, it doesn't. That should be a quote on your wall. That's
okay.
Exactly
I'm
right.
going to. Okay, yeah. We need to. We're quoting it right now. Hashtagging it. Creativity never goes off the clock. All right. I want to make all the money off that. No, I'm kidding.
Seriously, I tell you.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I can't wait to ask you more about your book, Hearts Do Matter. But before we do that, shall we just say a hearty warm welcome to everyone who's watching us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, wherever you're joining us from. Even if you're watching us on the replay, a hearty warm welcome to the show.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And this is a good interview because Anita is, well, we're going to keep it clean. Anita is a trailblazing butt-kicking mama. All right. There we go.
Nowadays, it's a little bit difficult because a lot of those words that were considered swears are very casually spoken nowadays. I think it's accepted even on television.
It's amazing how things have changed.
I like to be a bad bottom, a bad glute.
That's a
very... that word. I'm going to clean it up. Call it butt kicking. All right.
I'm a bad butt. I'm such a bad butt.
Oh my goodness. So Anita,
Carson would like you. I'm gonna tell Carson you said
that. Carson will definitely love that. You will definitely like that, without a doubt.
You know what I love about this right now? The fact that Brigetti is in South Africa. That Mary, you're in Tennessee, if I'm right, and I'm in the Chicagoland area. We never say anyone from Chicago. We never say we're from Illinois. We're from Chicago. Chicago has to be its own state because we never say, and I'm from Illinois.
Yes.
So interesting, but I love
no. Nobody ever says that. No one ever. I've never met somebody from Illinois. I've only met people from Chicago. I've never met someone from Illinois.
I feel really bad for the name Illinois. I'm sorry, Illinois, but you don't.
It's really good to hear that you guys do the same thing because we do the same in South Africa.
Do you?
Yeah, we do exactly the same thing. There's just, I don't know what it is. Everything's in the name, right?
Everything is in the name, and it's powerful. It is all about power, I tell you. So,
absolutely. So, talking about names, how did you come up with the title "Hearts Do Matter," and why did you choose it?
That's a great question. So, the short of the long story of the beginning of this whole thing was that, my mom had passed away in 2005. And one of the things I had remembered, I had heard through different outlets, but this one individual who had a show, and he talked about this concept that when someone passes away, that oftentimes they do try to send you a message in some way, whether it's through a symbol of some kind, or you hear a song and it relates to you, that they're just trying to say, hey, I still love you. I'm still here. I'm not completely gone. The physicality is gone, but the energy is still there, and they are still existing in this world. And so in one of those moments where when you find out that you're someone you love has passed and you're super connected to them, like I was with my mother. I was in a circumstance where she was abroad and I was here in the States, and the news had come, and I was overcome with incredible levels of grief. And one of the things that we all do, I believe we all do this, is we have that moment where you just want to know if they're okay. And you don't know who you're talking to, and you're just asking it out of just sheer angst and grief, just tremendous amount of love. And you ask if they're okay. And, we aren't always open to receiving if that's true or not. And in my case, I had asked, I was in a very heavily grief-stricken moment, and I had seen something that took place through my clock that I had. I had a clock with the wand that goes back and forth that tells you today is Thursday and have a great day, and all these things, and the date and all. And I it had gone out of order and had gone to I love you, but it was I heart you. And I had, my eyes had seen, my tears are all over the place, but I had still seen the heart, and I knew it said, I love you. And it stunned me just because I knew it went out of order from what I had last seen. And I thought, wait a minute. And so the human in me is myth busting it. The spirit in me is grabbing it. And I'm in this moment. And so as time had gone by, there was a moment that I was thinking about my mom, and I was emotional about it, just felt sad, and I missed her tremendously. And in that moment, I had poured something, and the drink that I poured was a red color, and it had a little drop that landed on the edge of the cup. I didn't see it happen. I just saw what had been left over, which was the shape of a heart. And I remembered in that moment when the heart had shown up and I was in that sad state, it just changed my energy. It changed my energy from a sad place to a loving place. And so as time had gone by, I kept seeing hearts show up. I wasn't looking for them. And I'm not talking about man-made hearts like, oh, look at the heart-shaped cookie. Oh, spiritual. No, it wasn't that. It was something that just naturally happened through the lighting, through how food had, I cut something and it's the shape of a heart. And I get so excited. I'd see myself, just the energy shifted from a grief place to a grateful place. And so eventually, I was experiencing these things all by myself. And the most I could do was tell my husband, who I didn't know what he was thinking at the time, because I'm like, look, that's a heart, and I didn't know if I was sounding crazy or what, but he embraced it, which I was really grateful for. My daughter started embracing it. And I eventually shared it on Instagram. I have a hashtag on there. I said, I realized that the shift from my energy from a sad and grieving place to a grateful place, like, look at that. It just made me feel better. I felt that hearts mattered. And then that whole idea of hearts mattered, that's a literal meaning, because those hearts that I saw, they mattered to me. Selfishly, they mattered to me. I needed that. I'm an only child. My mom was all I had. And losing her was a hard thing. And seeing those hearts, it mattered. But then on the other side of things, without it just being a literal thing, figuratively, it kind of turned into kind of an argument, a statement to say, hearts do matter. When you think about how people spend a lot of their lives, and as you know, from the last book I did, The Undercover Superhero, it was about emotional abuse. And so I'm aware of a lot of people who spend their lives on autopilot. They're conducting life on a surface level. They're not diving deep. They're not observing. They're not receiving. They're not being compassionate about the world around them and the people and what they're really saying underneath their words. Sometimes people say things, but underneath they're saying something else. So because of that, I feel that when we see that happen, I want people to start recognizing that someone's heart matters, that someone in front of you that you're talking to, when we talked about this earlier before the show, that when we get into argument situations or conflict or challenges, go back to remembering that person's heart and speak to that more than speaking cerebrally just to their brain. So that's how it all kind of evolved into Hearts Do Matter. And I said, you know what? That's going to be the name of the book. I'm going to share the story. It's really a two-parter. This one's the first part. It's just sharing the illustrative story between my mother and myself and our love journey, if you will, from living and seeing where love was, where it existed, and how it still exists after life. And the second part will be coming next year, where it manifests into all the hearts I've found and all the hearts that anyone who's been connected with me and not, how they found hearts as well. So it's something that's not just for me. It really belongs to the world.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Wonderful
Oh,
story.
wow.
Wow.
Yeah, very touching.
Thanks.
Very, very, very touching and very deep. And, you know, I always love talking to you because I love the way you word things. I love the way you write when I read stuff that you write. It's just so beautifully and eloquently done, and says, you know, there are words, we use words a lot and we can say them over and over again and they can kind of sound the same. But when there are certain people, when they say things, it takes it to a different level and gives it a different meaning. And so I feel like that's what you do with words. So I think you have a real gift.
Oh, thank you.
And I know
I
your
didn't
mommy
even
is very
know.
proud. Your
I didn't
mom's
even
very
know
proud
I
of you.
had this thing called, you know, the gift that you're calling it. I didn't even know it. I think I've always been made fun of for being passionate. And even now people do it, and I take it with a grain of salt. I welcome it. I think it's good. That means I'm doing my job. But I noticed that so many more people aren't passionate. And maybe it's because of their upbringing. Maybe it's because of their environment. Maybe it's because of their circumstances. But if there's a way that I could share that light so they can have the permission to just feel good and look at things in a different light, so it can really, I'll say this, I'll back up for a second. When I think about my books that I talked about with you, what was really interesting about it was here it is. My old book, I shouldn't call it an old book. It's still pretty new. It's still honeymoon period, but this is the undercover superhero.
Yeah.
The dark and the grays and all that in there. And there's just that
I know,
red.
never call a book old. It's one of your babies.
No, never call a book old. I'm so sorry. You are not old. You're so young. So here's this book that's like got the dark, the shadows, the grays. And then here's this book that pops up. Hang on, I don't want to drop this here. Whoop. Look at the color.
Gorgeous.
Okay? It's such a difference in color, if you will, because the thing I saw
But
about
it's
this
beautiful. They're both gorgeous.
Yeah, this was published by Rose Gold Publishing. Thank you, Dolly Cortez. And this is illustrated by the beautiful, amazing, illuminated woman I have ever met, Yuri Borgen. And she was someone who was able to take my story. And she really, this was what I was talking about before. I have this with you too also, that when we speak from our hearts, from my heart to your heart. And I'm unapologetic about it, and you receive it just as you do. And it means so much to me. When I shared my story, my poem, and who I was, and my relationship with my mother, this woman, when she brought this illustration to me, I still don't know if I could read this book without triggering those emotions, because she really pulled the most beautiful imagery to make it real, to go back in my life and see myself with my mom in all the ages that I saw love, and I could be grateful for her life and what she gave to me. So I think it's really important for people to, if they're living in a place of, mundane, or they feel depressed, or, there's that moment, that one day, that one holiday that you're feeling the kind of gray skies in your heart, that if this book can come out there and put some light into that beautiful place, then I think I've done something good.
Amen.
Oh, absolutely.
And don't we need it right now? We need it so much. We need it so much right now. Okay, so we want to ask you a couple more questions, right, Brigetti? So, oftentimes when we experience a loss in our family, people will surround the adults to offer comfort, but then they overlook the fact that children are affected by grief too, which really does happen. We know that. We've all experienced it, haven't we? How do you feel like your book offers help to children to both children and adults who are grieving? So,
I think human beings are such simple characters, but because we have this gorgeous thing called our brain, we tend to complicate everything. And sometimes, we are thinking for others and we act for others without really engaging with the person itself. And so I guess what I would say in these situations, actions and words are so super powerful. They could give to somebody something very positive. They could also give to somebody that's very negative. And they wouldn't even realize that they're doing it because they didn't take the time to learn the emotional landscape of that person at that moment, and including children. And I have a very soft spot for children, just because I think I don't know if God has gifted me with the spirit of a child in my heart, the way I like to play and be crazy and silly and all. But whenever I talk to children, I just stop the presses. I stop everything. And I just want to sit there and listen to the fascination that the child has to offer from their heart, because they're so limitless. And so when a child goes through grief, and even an adult, I still think about an adult. They might have an age, a number of experiences that they've had by all the rotation of the sun. They've been here for a long time. But they still have a heart of a child in there. They still have memory of who they were when they were younger, 2 and 4, or maybe not 2, but 4, 7, 10, 12. So I always look at their heart. So even this book has been called a children's book by many because of the natural way of looking at it. It's illustrated. It must be a children's book. But I'm a little stubborn about that. I believe this is a book for all hearts, because a child's heart is in everyone's heart. So when it comes down to solving the situation that you mentioned, I would focus on, the book itself focuses on taking you from a grief place to a gratitude place. In fact, it focuses so much on that, you're not going to feel the grief so much in this book. It's really about the gratitude that you have. And so when we look at how people communicate to one another and how we look at children, it should be something where number one, you're going to find the information in the book that kind of takes you through the learning process of what we can be focusing on. The other thing is when we're looking at our children, when we're looking at other people who've lost, to take a moment and just look and observe and feel what's going on in their lives. So, for instance, if you come to me, and this has happened to me, I lose my mother, and someone might simply say, how are you? I just lost my mom yesterday. And, the question is, how are you? And there's people that will say, I'm fine, and they'll act gracefully. And there's other people that are like, well, what do you think? You think I'm okay? I'm a mess. I'm angry. I'm upset. So everyone holds a lot of different stories within their heart. So when the time comes of loss, to be able to sit back and take a look at who you are talking with children, to be able to show a sense of compassion and patience and silence, allow them to get their emotions out. I see some mistakes that are out there in terms of communication, and it's not intentional mistakes. The ones who are intentional is a whole nother show. Okay. That's the abuse, other book. Okay. But the ones who are unintentionally,
I think you're spot on about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've heard this said to me. I've heard this said to children. I've heard it in passing, the whole don't cry. Look, she died. It's over. Let it go. You got to get past this. Now, again, sometimes people say it intentionally to be mean, and that's different. Other times people say it because they don't know what else they can say, and they're just trying to find a way, and these are the words they chose. So when they can learn to choose words of, I'm here for you. I'm just going to sit with you. How are you feeling right now? Is there anything that I can do that'll help you feel a little bit better? Would you like a hug? There's a lot to share with that. But when we just kind of sit in the moment and be in their energy, kind of take a moment, they'll come to you. They'll share with you. They might not say anything, but even after that moment is over, they might look back and say, I'm so glad. I'll tell you something. When my father passed in 2015, it's a whole different experience of loss. My daughter, I'll never forget it. And I don't know if it'll get me emotional, but I'm going to just try and say this. She is so young, and it was spring break. It just happened to be spring break. And the thing she said to me stuck with me it'll stick with me for the rest of my life. It was the one most amazing thing she said to me. Because I don't want to hear people say things like, you'll be fine, everything will get better, you're going to be all right. Nobody understands the pain that I was going through, and no one understands what I had to endure and where my heart actually broke to mend that part. It takes work.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people mean well, but my daughter said this. She said, she was so cute and so young. And she said, Mama, I'm going to sleep in the bed with you, and I'm not coming out until you feel better. And that's it. She made a statement, and she literally climbed up in the bed, and I was in bed. Like, I didn't want to come out of bed. I just wanted to stay in bed. She climbed up in the bed, put the blanket, tucked me in, and just put her little arm around me. She goes, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay here till you feel better. In her cute little adorable voice, I cannot do it the same way she did. And I remember sitting there looking at her, and I started to cry. It was so beautiful. I cried not of sadness. I cried of, what a beautiful child to say this to me. Mm-hmm. And that's all I really needed. And we just watched cartoons, and I went through my waves, and she didn't bring it up. She just was with me. And I think for someone like who I am, I kind of just needed that, just someone who's with me. So I think that when we look at how grief can affect a child, let's look at the child. Let's look at their heart and see where they're at, and then give them that. If they ask questions, answer them. Answer them with grace. Answer them with respect to who they are.
And be truthful. I really believe in being truthful. Don't try and deceive them, because you do a lot more harm that way.
Yeah, no kidding. I think there's so much of that. And we talk about children and how parents, they're trying to protect them from something. They mean well, but you don't need to. They're really, really amazing. I give them more credit than I do adults, because adults actually have the brain capacity to make good decisions. But I think what happens is children just think with their heart, and they can understand better with their heart. When you speak to their heart, they're like, okay, I get it now. Versus when you think so hard about the emotional element that something bad has happened, then they take that energy, and that's how they manifest it into, this is supposed to be a bad thing. Now I guess I'm supposed to feel really bad. So, I obviously, in my situation with me losing my father, it was sad and sorrowful. And I did tell her, I said, I miss this and I miss that. I have to be careful, because if I start, I don't want this show to be me bawling. But, there are things I was telling her
it's okay.
But, it's very important to, first of all, be honest and upfront about it. But talking about mistakes people make, something I see often, and that I have a personal dislike for, is when people say to you, I know exactly how you feel. My take on that is, we've all lost a mother or a father or an aunt or an uncle or a sister or a brother or somebody. But my relationship with that person was different to your relationship with your sibling or your family member. So the dynamics of your relationship is going to affect how you feel when you have that loss. So no two people, even two siblings, if they lose a parent, even two siblings will not feel the same, because their life experience with their parent had a different dynamic.
That's right. That's right. It's, we look at, for the sake of a little metaphor for you, you look at coloring books, and you put two children together, even if they're twins, and they color. They might even pick the same colors to choose, but they might color it very differently. You usually don't see two children with the same picture coloring it the exact same way, in the exact same fashion. They color it in their own way, and in the same way, we color our personality with different emotions. And so I think that if we could just take a moment to really give a little bit more credit to someone's emotions, more than how they're supposed to think, then you're not controlling someone's way of feeling. And quite frankly, when it comes down to grief, any kind of sadness, I like to name in my little group I've got on Facebook called Powerline Live. I label my days. Every day is a certain day for a specific topic. And on Saturday, my daughter helped me actually come up with the name sadder day, like you're sad, So let's talk about grief. Let's talk about sadness. Let's talk about these things in terms of the emotional element. How do we stay strong in these sad moments? And one of the things, that many could work on is allowing sadness to have its journey. Because how selfish are we? When we find something funny, we stop everybody and we're just laughing and laughing. And at the end of our laugh, what do? We sigh, we look up, we're like, oh my God, that was so funny. And then we giggle again, and we might talk about it to somebody else, and we might laugh. And we just have this whole experience with laughter and good moments and inspiration. Of course, positive feels great. But the moment something negative happens, it's always, okay, keep it together. Don't let anybody know, even what I just said right now on the show, only because of the fact of time. To just start getting emotional is very difficult. Granted, when I need to cry, I'll let it happen. Commercials make me emotional. I let it happen. Why? Why do we do this? Because there's a message in the tears. There's a message, there's a story that's being told. And our heart hasn't had a chance to go through the whole emotion. Or the journey rather. So you can do this with laughing. You can do this with inspiration and great moments. But when it comes to sadness, we have to keep it together. We're not allowed to. And you know what happens? Illness happens because you're stressing out, holding all that in. Or wait till later on and you have people that blow up. You have people that have breakdowns. Why? Because your body, it loves you so much. It's going to hold it in as much as you ask, but then there's going to be a breaking point. So when we have grief,
then it's going to boil. Then it boils over like a pot. And you know what? And we need to have Anita on again because we can continue talking about this forever. Such a great topic and it's so important. But where can everybody find you? Because I know we have to go and oh my gosh, this is such a good conversation. So where can everybody find you?
Well, the easiest thing to do, you can find me through the social media world, which, Facebook, you can find me through Interscope 365. That's my business. That's there. You can reach out to me through my website, which is interscope365.com. You can email me at Anita@interscope365.com. Yes. .com. And, if you're interested in, when it comes down to this, we talked about me being an emotional intelligence strategist and trainer. So, I provide coaching for the emotional intelligence aspect. So we're talking about emotions, feelings, anxiety, overwhelm. You don't have to be in a broken state to go and see somebody. You could be perfectly fine. You just want more. You want to be better in one specific emotion, that something gets in your way. Here we are approaching Thanksgiving, and we've had one heck of a 2020, haven't we? So when you're going through these emotional storms and you'd like to kind of learn how to work through those storms where you can actually be in the boat and be like, I'm good. I'm going to be just fine. Like Life of Pi. Anyone saw the movie? If you haven't, you should see it. These are things that you have tools in your back pocket to utilize. It's with you. You don't really have to extend yourself to so many places. You have it all in you. You just have to know how to navigate through it. So you can reach out and talk to me through the avenues I just mentioned. And to get the book, if you're interested in getting the book, you just go to Amazon. It is, and I'll give you the link to it, which is really easy. It's heartsdomatter.com. And that's this book right here. Okay. And then the other thing is the companion journal that I really didn't talk much about, but we can talk about it later. This is the companion journal. This is a guided journal that has all sorts of goodies in here where if you've read the book Hearts Do Matter, it'll guide you and give you the prompts that you need to go from grief to gratitude, to feel loss, but then go into feeling love. And I think that this is going to be a wonderful tribute. If you fill this out all the way through, you'll end up with a beautiful tribute to someone that you love. And this can also be found on Amazon, gratefulcelebrations.com.
Thank you so much, Anita. And
we love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was really great hanging out with you. And we need to have like a 2-hour show so we could just sit and talk and have coffee and discuss more topics.
I think we should invite you to coffee talk.
Yes, let's do it.
I think we need to do a coffee talk because this needs to be a much, much longer conversation.
Oh my gosh, really, seriously. Thank you so much, much.
Let's do it, Bridgetti. Let's do it.
Thanks very much, everyone,
for watching. Bye. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Take care, everyone. Write good stuff and be inspired one conversation at a time.